Om Namo Narayanaye. Om Namo Narayanaye.
Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So again, we're reading from Hari Bhakti Vilasa, from the 12th Vilasa. We're talking about ecodicity. Last time we heard about the pure ecodicity and the mixed ecodicity, and we heard about the glories of following pure ecodicity and the dangers of not observing the pure ecodicity, but of mistakenly following ecodicity on a mixed ecodicity. So now we're going to have a look at some understanding about what mixed ecodicity actually means. So we have, so here we have text 315. Ata sampurna lakshanena vida lakshanam, the symptoms of mixed ecodicity. So remember, we want to avoid mixed ecodicity. When a mixed ecodicity comes up, which is not, or an impure ecodicity comes up, we need to fast on the next day, on the Dwadasi. So in Skanda Purana, it's stated, apart from ecodicity, right, every day begins from sunrise and ends at sunrise the next day. It is calculated to be 60 dandas, 60 dandas, okay? So every day, meaning a day and night, is 60 dandas. So the word danda here, I'm not sure if it's in the Sanskrit here, but anyway, danda is 24 minutes because there's 24 hours in a day and night. So therefore, 60 dandas, 60 times 24, we have hours. We have hours and minutes, right? So there are 24 hours which are made of 60 minutes, right, in a day and night. There's also, that means that there will be 60 times 24 minutes. So a danda is 24 minutes. So here, what we're saying here is, apart from ecodicity, right? He's saying apart from ecodicity. So ecodicity, there may be some different calculation, but for every other day, the Vedic day starts at sunrise and ends at sunrise the next day, right? So we already talked about that in a previous lecture, exactly when sunrise is. You can go back and look at that, that one if you haven't seen it. So it is calculated to be 60 dandas. Okay, so now in the Garuda Purana and the Shiva Rahasya, it said, text 316, O Brahmana, when ecodicity, meaning the lunar day, the lunar titi, the lunar day of ecodicity, right, continues until 2 muhurtas, right, 2 muhurtas or 4 dandas before sunrise, it is called a complete ecodicity. When the ecodicity continues until 2 muhurtas or 4 dandas before sunrise, it is called a complete ecodicity. A householder should observe the vow of such an ecodicity, right? So we're going to see everybody actually should follow this vow, but here he's saying a householder should follow this vow, right, of the pure ecodicity. Okay, so what is a complete ecodicity? What is a pure ecodicity? Right, so it is an ecodicity, when the ecodicity titi comes up to 2 muhurtas or 4 dandas before sunrise. So what is 2 muhurtas? What is 4 dandas? We already said in the previous verse, 4 dandas, right? 4 dandas are, 4 dandas is 4 times 24, right? So 24 times 4 is 96 minutes, 96 minutes, right? So if we divide that by 2, we get 48 minutes. So a muhurta is 48 minutes. Now, there may be some calculations of dandas and muhurtas or gatikas, right? When we talk about gatikas, muhurtas, dandas, naligais, right? These are different time lengths, right? So let's get our terminology correct here. Here we're going to use the words danda and muhurta. In South India, sometimes they use gatika and naligai, okay? So muhurta is 48 minutes. It may be calculated in some other way when people are doing jyotisha or doing astrology or astronomy. They may have some other ways of doing it, right? Sometimes people have varying muhurtas and varying dandas and things like that because they take the length of the day to be only between sunrise and sunset. But we're taking the day as being, the Vedic day as being from sunrise to the next sunrise. Okay? So now, but for Ekadasi, for calculating Ekadasi, okay, so then what's the normal Panchangam, the normal Indian calendar, lunar calendar, which we follow? What again is a Panchangam? It's Panchanga, 5 limbs. A calendar in India tells us, a traditional calendar tells us 5 things, at least 5 things, may tell us more. So those 5 things are Tithi, which means the lunar date, Vara, the day of the week, Nakshatra, the star, right, on that day. Yoga means the yoga, there's a particular influence, and Karna is another type of influence, right? So Tithi, Vara, Yoga, Nakshatra, and so it should actually be Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, and Karna. These are the 5 things in Panchangam. If anybody wants to know more about this, there's a standard text on Muhurta, which means here Muhurta is a length of time, but Muhurta also means finding the auspicious times, the science of finding auspicious and inauspicious times. They can write to me at the email address at the end of the video, and I can give them a book, a standard book on Muhurta, which can be downloaded freely on the internet, called Kala Prakashika, which is an ancient standard text, which is written by a Sri Vaishnava. So it gives us all explanations in a Vaishnava way, right? There are many books, of course, on Jyotish Shastra, which are not necessarily written by Vaishnavas, but this is a good one. It's a good and a standard text. So if anybody wants that, that'll explain more about the details. But for now, the simple explanation is a danda is 24 minutes. A muhurta is 48 minutes. Okay, so 2 muhurtas is 96 minutes. 4 dandas is also 96 minutes. So what it's saying is 96 minutes before sunrise, if the Ekadasi lunar day is still present at that time. If we do the calculation for that time, 96 minutes before sunrise, up to sunrise, right? Right. Normally we would look, if we want to find out the lunar day for today, right? If we look on the calendar, the people who make the calendars will judge what the lunar day is for the whole of today. Right, it may not even be for the whole of today, but they will mark it on the calendar as today, if at the time of sunrise that lunar day is in effect, right? Except the exception to this rule is for Ekadasi. For Ekadasi, they don't look at sunrise as the beginning of the day. They look at what is called Brahma Mahuta or Arundaya. Arundaya is the dawn period, before dawn. 96 Arundaya means this when the sun comes up. It's sunrise. Before sunrise, 96 minutes, 1 hour and 36 minutes before sunrise. So, for example, if the sun in your place rises at 6 a.m., it doesn't always rise at 6 a.m. in every place, obviously, or at every time of the year, depending on the latitude of where you live. Higher latitudes and lower latitudes, there'll be a big difference in summer and winter sunrise and sunset. Okay, so you have to just find out from the place where you live when sunrise is, when sunset is, like that. Okay, so when you find out when sunrise is, then 1 hour and 36 minutes before sunrise, but let's just say that 6 a.m. is sunrise. Okay, for an example, 6 a.m. is sunrise. That means 2 hours before sunrise, 1 hour and 36 minutes before sunrise, right, is 4:24 a.m. If sunrise is at 6 a.m., then 1 hour before is 5 a.m. and 36 minutes before that is 4:24 a.m. So 4:24 a.m. is Brahma Muhurta. There are different Muhurtas, different sections of 48 minutes throughout the day, right? And they start and end according to the sunrise, right? So 48 minutes before sunrise is Shiva Muhurta. 48 minutes before that, 96 minutes before sunrise begins up until 48 minutes. That 48 minutes is called Brahma Muhurta. So when you read in the scriptures that we should do spiritual things in Brahma Muhurta, or Brahma Muhurta is a good time for doing japa or doing some spiritual activity, right? Or for waking up and taking bath and going and doing puja, that means the 48-minute period between 96 minutes before sunrise and 48 minutes before sunrise. That is Brahma Mahuta. All of the Muhurtas have different names. That one is called Brahma. The next one is called Sheep. There are many different names throughout the day. So because Muhurtas, there are 60 dandas. There are therefore only 30 Muhurtas in a day and night. So 24 hours equals 60 dandas equals 30 Muhurtas. A Muhurta is twice as long as a danda. Okay, so we got our terminology right now because it's going to be important to understand this as we go on, to understand exactly what these things say. Now, so therefore, in order to judge if an ekadasi is correct or complete, right, then we have to see that the ekadasi has to be there, the ekadasi tithi, the lunar day of the 11th day of the moon, waxing or waning, has to be present 96 minutes before sunrise on that day, right? Now, it may extend, it may be present 96 minutes before sunrise on one day, and the next day also it might be still present 96 minutes. So in which case, we know we have to fast on the second day, not on the first day, right? Is that clear? Right. So now text 317 from Bhavishya Purana, it also says, a complete or perfect ekadasi is one that continues up to 2 muhurtas or 4 dandas before sunrise of the next day, right? Right. So that's the similar thing that says, right? So we look to that up to the 96 minutes before the next day, right? It should continue up to that time. Otherwise, it is a mixed or polluted ekadasi. A mixed or polluted ekadasi. If the ekadasi doesn't continue up to 96 minutes before sunrise the next day, then it is a mixed or polluted ekadasi, and we've already read about the dangers of following that in our last lecture. So now, text 318. If at the time of sunrise, remember, we're judging things from 96 minutes before sunrise, but then we need to look at sunrise as well. So if at the time of sunrise an ekadasi is touched by dasami, right? Ekadasi is touched by dasami. So on the 10th day, if we look at the 10th day, the 10th lunar day, right? At the time of sunrise, right? If it is ekadasi tithi at the time of sunrise, right? Then we would think it's ekadasi. But then we have to look to the next day and see if that ekadasi continues up to 96 minutes before sunrise the next day, then it will be complete. If it doesn't, then it will be mixed. Is touched by dasami, right? So if the 11th day is touched by the 10th day, it should not be observed. Vaishnavas in particular should not observe such an ekadasi. So I've said that Smartas or Advaitins, Mayavadis, they will accept that first ekadasi as the time to fast. Vaishnavas should not fast on that day. They should fast on the next day when there is the Mahadwadasi. Okay, so now text 319. Ata Arundaya, remember it means sunrise. Vida Parityaga. Tyaga means to be rejected, to reject, to give up, right? Right? Like Sarvadhamam Parityaja. So Parityaja means to reject, right? So Ata Arundaya Vida Parityaja. So ekadasi that is pierced by the time of sunrise should be rejected. So if at the time of sunrise on ekadasi, right? If we look at a sunrise and the ekadasi tithi is there is still some time left of dasami, right? So let's say we look at it, there's still some dasami left at sunrise, but the rest of the day is ekadasi. One should break fast on the dwadasi. One should fast on the dwadasi and break fast on the tridasi. Fast on the 12th day and break fast on the tridasi, the 13th day. We already heard this, but we're hearing it a different way. This is being explained to us by Sage Kanva, right? So just to understand this again, right? You look at the calendar says it's ekadasi today, but you look at the next day is dwadasi, right? But somehow or other, right? Somehow or other, the Ekadasi, right? The date, somehow or other, if you calculate a particular time of day as Ekadasi, but at sunrise, it was still Dasami, even for a second. It's mixed. And therefore, we should fast on the Dwadasi and and break fast on the 13th day, the Trayodasi. Text 320 in the Skanda Purana. If Dasami continues up to 4 dandas before sunrise, Dasami, right? If there's Dasami, what is 4 dandas? 4 dandas is equal to 2 muhurtas is equal to 96 minutes. So if when Brahma Mahuta occurs, we get up in Brahma Mahuta. We get up in Brahma Mahuta 1 hour and 36 minutes before sunrise. So according to the scriptures, that's a good time to get up, right? So if when we get up at Brahma Mahuta, 96 minutes before sunrise, if it's still at the time when we get up, it's Dasami. If Dasami continues up until 4 dandas before sunrise, right? But the rest of the day is Ekadasi, because it may be named Ekadasi because at sunrise it's Ekadasi, right? At sunrise it was Ekadasi. But for the purposes of Ekadasi, we have to look at 96 minutes before sunrise, right? One should not observe it and instead fast on Dwadasi. By doing so, one achieves the merit of performing 100 war sacrifices after fasting on Dwadasi. It should be broken on Trayodasi. So fast on 12th day, break fast on the 13th day. Is that clear? So now, text 321 to 323 from Garuda Purana stated, if an Ekadasi ends 3 dandas, what is 3 dandas? Now, 3 dandas, the danda is 24 minutes. So 3 dandas is 3 times 24, which is 72 minutes, right? So, or it's 1.5 muhurtas, right? So 72 minutes. If an Ekadasi ends 3 dandas before sunrise the next day, it is called Sandigda Ekadasi and should not be observed. Okay? If an Ekadasi continues until 2 dandas, what is 2 dandas? 2 dandas is also 1 muhurta, right? Or 48 minutes before sunrise, right? On the next day. It is called a Samyukta Ekadasi, right? And should not be observed. If an Ekadasi begins at sunrise, it is called Sampurna Ekadasi, right? Or complete Ekadasi. Those who desire to enjoy the fruit of their karma should not observe such an Ekadasi, right? So all of these different types should not be observed, right? Only if the Ekadasi continues up until 96 minutes before the next sunrise should it be observed. If the Ekadasi continues only up to 72 minutes or 48 minutes, or even up to sunrise itself the next day, right? Then it should not be observed, right? Is that clear? Right. So at the end of these instructions, this statement is found. To obtain good children and sufficient wealth, one should avoid observing the above mentioned Ekadasis. So what are they? Right? They are Sandigda Ekadasi, Samyukta Ekadasi, and Sampurna Ekadasi. Right? These 3 types of Ekadasis have to be not observed. Right? That is, if the Ekadasi ends 72 minutes before the next sunrise, 48 minutes before the next sunrise, or at the next sunrise, then those Ekadasis should not be observed. But the next day should be observed for fasting. Okay? So now it says here, this will award one the benefit of performing 100 horse sacrifices. If you fast on the Dwadasi in all these cases, and break fast on the 13th day, the Trayodasi. Text 325. Now, in a conversation between Sudha Goswami and Shonaka Rishi, that's found in Brahma Mahuta Purana, the following is stated. If a tinge of Dasami, the 10th day, remains at Brahma Mahuta of Ekadasi, right? Brahma Mahuta is 96 minutes before sunrise. It is 2 two muhurtas before sunrise. It is 4 dandas before sunrise. All the same thing. 96 minutes before sunrise. If there's still dasami, then it should be understood as polluted. If dasami continues until sunrise, it is called yoga. Okay, now, text 326. The 4 dandas before sunrise are divided into 4 parts. There are 4 dandas before sunrise. Those 4 dandas are the 2 muhurtas before sunrise, or the 96 minutes before sunrise. So what it's saying here is the 4 dandas, or the 2 muhurtas before sunrise, the 96 minutes before sunrise, are divided into 4 parts: Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga. Right? So we just heard about yoga in the previous verse. So now we're talking about different things. So the 4 parts, if we divide 96 divided by 4, we get 24, right? So each danda has a different name: Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga, right? So it means from 96 minutes before sunrise, right, to 72 minutes before sunrise is called Veda. From 72 minutes before sunrise minus a danda is to 48 minutes before sunrise is called Ati Veda. From 48 minutes before sunrise to 24 minutes before sunrise is called Mahaveda. From 24 minutes before sunrise to sunrise itself, to up till sunrise, is called Yoga. That tracks with what we learned before. If dasami continues to sunrise, that is called Yoga, right? So now we know what the 4 periods are, the 4 dandas are. The 4 danda is a period of 24 minutes. So these are 4 periods right before sunrise: Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga. Okay? If dasami remains until any of these periods, the benefit of observing such a vow will go to the demons. These are mixed Ekadasis, and we have to instead fast on the Dwadasi, the 12th day, and break fast on the 13th day. Got it? Okay. So now, text 327, some questions, right? This all sounds very complicated, right? Let's have some questions about this. Oh, exalted Brahmana, what is Veda and what is Yoga? Well, we just understood the definition of Veda and Yoga, along with Ati Veda and Mahaveda, right? From the previous sloka, right? Please tell us in detail about Veda and Yoga, which spoil the vow of Ekadasi. So these 2 things are things which spoil the vow of Ekadasi. So when the vow of Ekadasi is spoiled, then we have to do the vow of Mahadwadasi, the Dwadasi vow. We have to fast on Dwadasi and break fast on Tradasi, the 12th day and the 13th day. So text 328, excuse me. The period of Brahma Mahuta before sunrise, Brahma Mahuta, which is 96 minutes up to 48 minutes before sunrise, right, has to be ascertained as consisting of 4 dandas and is divided into 4 parts, such as Veda, right? So the period of Brahma Mahuta is the second Mahuta before sunrise. The first one is Shiva Mahuta, I think. So Brahma Mahuta consists of, a Mahuta is 48 minutes. 48 minutes means 2 dandas, right? 2 sets of 24, right? So the Brahma Mahuta, the period of Brahma Mahuta before sunrise has been ascertained as consisting of 4 dandas. Okay, so 4 dandas, actually 2 dandas is a Mahuta. So this is interesting. Well, let's have a look at the Sanskrit here, because it may be. Okay, so here, actually in the, I disagree with the translation here. In the Sanskrit, it says Chatushro Gatika. So a Gatika is the same as a danda, right? There are 4 Gatikas, or 4 dandas before sunrise, which make up 2 muhurtas, right? So here he's translated this wrongly. He said the period of Brahma Mahuta. Brahma Mahuta doesn't go all the way up to sunrise. Brahma Mahuta is only 48 minutes. There's another 48 minutes after Brahma Mahuta before sunrise. Brahma Mahuta is the second Mahuta before sunrise. So he's using the term here, Brahma Mahuta, the translator, in a very colloquial way. He's suggesting that Brahma Mahuta is all the way from 96 minutes all the way up to sunrise. But we know that a Muhurta is not 96 minutes. A Muhurta is only 48 minutes. So strictly speaking, it's Brahma Mahuta and Shiva Mahuta, which he's talking about here. So what in the verse here, it's very clear in the Sanskrit. Chaturashro Gatika, 4 Gatikas. A Gatika is a danda. It's the same as a danda. There's Gatikas and Naligai in South India. Usually they use those terms. Okay. So here he's used the term Gatika. So Gatika is also like a danda. It's 24 minutes. So Chaturashro Gatika means four Gatikas before sunrise, right? They are divided up into 4 parts. The 4 dandas. We already understood from the previous sloka what they are. Veda, Ati Veda, Mahavega, and Yoga. Okay. So here it's just saying that. Veda Dinam. Veda Adi. Beginning with Veda. So the first one is Veda. Then the second one is Adi Veda. Counting from Brahma Muhurta to sunrise. The 4 dandas or Gatikas are called Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga. Okay. So that's all it's saying here, basically, right? They divided into 4 parts. That's just saying the same thing as was said before. The problem is the period of Brahma Muhurta before sunrise is ascertained as consisting. It's not the Brahma Muhurta. The translation should be the period of the 4 Gatikas or the 4 dandas before sunrise, beginning with Brahma Muhurta. So he should have written, if he wanted to translate this and put Brahma Muhurta, which is not in the Sanskrit, right? Chaturashra Gatika is in the Sanskrit. So he hasn't done it literally. If you wanted to translate this non-literally as he has and use the term Brahma Muhurta, you have to say the period beginning with Brahma Muhurta, not the period of Brahma Muhurta, because the period beginning with Brahma Muhurta up to sunrise is 96 minutes, but the period of Brahma Muhurta is only 48 minutes. Okay? All right. So that's just giving us the same information. Text 329 to 330. Now, it says here, now, the period just before sunrise is known as Arundaya Veda. Arundaya Vedas. Arundaya means sunrise, and Veda seems to have a meaning of the first period. We can actually look it up. Why don't we look it up? Veda, this term Veda. Let's make sure. Yeah, Arundaya Veda Syat. Okay. So we're just going to have a quick look in the Sanskrit dictionary and see what the term Veda means. Veda means penetration. Right. So it's the first period. Breaking or opening, the opening period. Right. Okay, very good. Fixing in the, okay, Veda. Yeah, okay, we understand what it means. Okay, so the first period, the period just before sunrise is called Arundaya Veda, right? Or the piercing of sunrise, when the sun begins to rise, right? So for instance, when we get up early in the morning and we get up early in the morning, we take bath, we do Sandhya Vandanam like that, then at that time it's dark, right? It's before sunrise. Then the sun is coming up. Before the sun actually pierces the eastern horizon and comes up, which is sunrise, there's some light from the sun which shows over the eastern horizon, right? So the sky begins to glow red and begins to have light in it. That part is called Arundaya or sunrise, but it's not exactly sunrise. It's before the sun actually rises, there is some light. So it's called dawn, right? So the period just before dawn is visible is called Ati Veda. Ati Veda. So we have the period just before sunrise is called Arundaya Veda. Then the next period is called, before that is called Ati Veda. The period prior to that is called Mahaveda. And the period just after sunrise is called Yoga. So I'm sorry. So it means it sounds like here you have different things. So just before sunrise, Arundaya Veda, right? Then you have the next one after that is Ati Veda, right? Then you have Mahaveda, and then you have actually, this may be a breakdown. This may be a breakdown of the period of Brahma Mahuta and Shiva Mahuta, the 2 Muhurtas before the 2 Muhurtas are 4 dandas. Right, the dandas have different names. So Arundaya Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga. The period just after sunrise. So right, okay. So that's good. So now, text 331. In the Kala Madhava, it's explained. Veda, Ativeda, Mahaveda, and Yoga pollute Ekadasi. If within a period of 4 dandas, what is 4 dandas again? 4 dandas is 4 gatikas, is 2 muhurtas, is 96 minutes, right? So if within a period of 96 minutes, 3.5 are within 3.5 dandas, 3.5 dandas. So 3 times 24, right, equals 72 plus 12, right, is 84, right? So 3.5 are within Ekadasi, and a half, right? So there are 4 dandas from beginning of Brahma Mahuta up till sunrise. There are 4 dandas, 4 gatikas, 2 muhurtas, right? 96 minutes. So if within 84 of those minutes, right, are within Ekadasi, and 1/2 is within Dasami, it is called Veda, right? So a half means a half a danda, half of danda or a half a gatika, or a quarter of a muhurta, which is 12 minutes, right? So if 12 minutes in the Brahma Mahuta, from a period of 96 minutes before, the first 12 minutes, so if from 96 minutes to 84 minutes, if you get up 96 minutes before sunrise, and for the first 12 minutes that you're up, it's Dasami, then that is called Veda. If the Dasami remains for another 12 minutes, for 2 dandas, up until 2 dandas, which means for the first, up until 2 dandas, so 3.5, right, it's Veda. Here it's a slightly different calculation. Okay, 2 dandas before sunrise, it is called Ati Veda, 2 dandas before sunrise. So if Dasami continues, the 10th day, lunar day, continues up until 2 dandas is 48 minutes, 1 muhurta before 48 minutes before sunrise, right? That is called Ati Veda. The meaning of the other 2 is easy to understand. So Mahaveda and Yoga also should be understood in this way, right? So we should probably make a chart of this and explain it. But anyway, the point is we have to judge mixed or pure Ekadasi by looking at the period before the Ekadasi of 96. There's really no need to go into all these detail, right? All we have to know is if any time in the 96 minutes before sunrise there was Dasami, then it's a mixed Ekadasi. And we should observe the fasting on Dwadasi and on the 12th day, and break fast on the 13th day, right? So text 332, the fault of following such a vow. So making a mistake, right? So now it's going to tell you the reason why he's explained all these different occurrences, right? When Dasami comes up to this point or Dasami comes up to that point, for the purposes of fasting, all we need to do is know that if it's Dasami 96 minutes before sunrise, then we have to observe the fasting on Dwadasi and on the 12th day, and break fast on the 13th day. That's all we need to know, right? But he's going to give us more detail. He's going to tell us which actual demon gets the benefit if you break the vow of an Ekadasi which is polluted by any of these things: Yoga, Mahaveda, Ativeda, or Veda, right? So if the Ekadasi is polluted by Yoga, then it goes to all the demons. If the benefit of an Ekadasi polluted by Mahaveda goes to a specific demon called Vaskali. The benefit of an Ekadasi polluted by Ativeda goes to a demon called Jambasura. The benefit of Ekadasi polluted by Veda goes to Mohini. Okay, so Mohini, that doesn't sound too bad, because Mohini, as far as I know, Mohini is an incarnation of the Lord. So why would that be bad? I don't know. Anyway, so it's very interesting. So we can also look up the stories about these different asuras and see where they come in the Puranic stories, and we can understand a little bit before. So now we have a sage called Gobila in text 333, who's going to explain to us a little bit more about this, right? Gobila Griya Sutra is a Samaveda Sutra, right? So Gobila has to do with the Samveda. So let's have a look and see what Gobila says. The Supreme Lord awarded Mohini, right? Mohini is as far as I know, unless there's another Mohini, he's talking about the incarnation of the Lord. Maybe I'm wrong. The benefit of mixed ecotasy, because why would the Lord have to give the benefit of an ecotasy to himself? To one of his incarnations. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But anyway, it says here, the Supreme Lord awarded Mohini the benefit of a mixed ecotasy in which Dashami remains up to 4 dandas before sunrise. 4 dandas before sunrise is the beginning of Brahma Mahuta, 96 minutes before sunrise, or 2 Muhurtas before sunrise. Right. So now, text 334, from the Padma Purana Uttarakhanda, it's stated, if Dasami, the 10th day, extends up to 4 dandas, which is 2 Muhurtas, right, which is 4 Gatikas, right, which is 96 minutes before sunrise, one should not observe such an ecotasy. We already understood that before. Instead, one should fast on the Dwadasi, the 12th day, without any hesitation. So now, text 335 from the Bhavishya Purana, O king, if even a tinge of Dasami, the 10th day, remains 4 dandas, 4 Gatikas, 2 Muhurtas, 96 minutes before sunrise, one should not observe the vow of ecotasy. Right, he should instead do the vow of Dwadasi by performing the Mahadwadasi fast on the 12th day and breaking the fast on the 13th day. It's also said, text 336, a Vaishnava should not observe ecotasy where there is a tinge of Dasami, or the 10th day, right, at the beginning. So that's just a general sloka, confirming what we're just reading. Text 337, right, from the Garuda Purana, it said, if during the 4 danda period before sunrise, 4 dandas, 4 Gatikas, 2 Muhurtas, or 96 minutes period before sunrise, there's a tinge of Dasami, the 10th day remains, the Vaishnava must fast on that ecotasy. That's not right. Dasami Shesha means when Dasami is left over, samyukta, and joined with Yadisyada Rundaya, Naiva Posh. I'm not sure about this. This one I have to talk about. I'm not sure that he's got this translation right here. This is a very technical part. So a disclaimer here. We have to have a disclaimer here that since we're dealing with all these very technical terms and we're dealing with calculations and things like that, if I make a mistake or the translator has made a mistake or there's a mistake that I make by looking at the Sanskrit or something like that, please forgive us, right? Because this is very technical. And so, if anybody knows better, right, they can write to me at the email address at the end of this lesson, and they can tell me what this means, but I don't really understand verse 337 here. It says, if during the 4 danda period before sunrise, a tinge of dasari remains. We talked about that before. That is, to me, that is the definition of a mixed ecotasy. A Vaishnava must fast on that ecotasy. No, that's not true. So I'm not sure why it says here. It must be, what we should do is, what I'll do is I'll ask my Sanskrit teacher to explain this verse, because it doesn't seem right to me. Okay, that doesn't seem right. Okay, so now we're going to finish that, and we're going to talk about the symptoms of a Vaishnava, right? So up until now, what he said is what have we understood in the 12th Vilasa? We've understood that there are some things that we do daily, right? They're called nitya kriyas, eternal activities. There are some things that we don't do daily, but we do occasionally. The first thing that we're going to discuss is the ekadasi, vratam, which is the fasting on the light fortnight and the dark fortnight on the 11th lunar day, right? And that Vaishnavas follow it in one way, and Smartas, or people who are Advaitins, followers of Adi Shankaracharya, Mayavadis, they follow it on a different way. And so we've understood all the general rules of calculating ekadasi, of how to calculate the 11th day, whether the 11th day is mixed or pure. We understood what we should fast from, what we shouldn't fast from, if there's any exceptions to that, if there's exceptions to the exceptions, and we have now understood how to understand the difference between a pure ecodicity and a mixed ecodicity, and the mixed ecodicity, how to deal with that by fasting on the 12th day and breaking fast on the 13th day. So now in text 337, basically what it's saying is, if you do this, Vaishnavas should do this. They should follow all those rules and regulations and only fast, only perform Ekadasi and Dwadasi Vratam, right, the two Vratams, on the particular days as they're calculated or understood according to these rules and regulations. So now he's going to say, what are the symptoms of such a person who is a Vaishnava, who follows this? So it says, ata, atra. So ata means now, or thus, here, atra, right? Atra, Vaishnava Lakshanam. What are the defining qualities of such a Vaishnava who does this, right? So he's going to say here. This is, it says here, according to statements of the Shastra, the scriptures, such as Skanda Purana, a Vaishnava is one who has been initiated into the chanting of a Vishnu mantra and who is engaged in the devotional service of Lord Vishnu. This is a very, very important verse, and I think it may be in some other part of Hari Bhakti Vilasa as well. We may have come across a verse like this in the second Vilas, which deals with initiation, right? Because it gives the symptoms of who's a Vaishnava. But this is very important to know. This is a general definition of a Vaishnava. So now somebody could be a Vaishnava who just worships the Lord, right? So he not only has to worship the Lord, but formally, if we accept the person formally as a Vaishnava, that person should be initiated into the chanting of a Vishnu mantra. So without being initiated into the chanting of a Vishnu mantra, right? Even if a person might worship Vishnu or Krishna, right? So somebody might worship Krishna. He might like Krishna. He might accept Krishna as God or Vishnu as God, like that, and worship them. But he can't formally or officially be called a Vaishnava unless he's been initiated into the chanting of a Vishnu mantra. What does it say in the Sanskrit here? It says here, Grihita Vishnu Dikshita Dikshako. So one should have Vaishnava Diksha. Vaishnava Diksha was defined in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So we're reading this statement in Hari Bhakti Vilas. So the word Vaishnava, Vishnu Dikshako, right? Vishnu Dikshako, Vishnu Seva Paro, right? That person, Nara, right? Who is Vishnu, who has taken the Vishnu Diksha, right? Grihita, Vishnu Dikshako, Vishnu Seva Paro Naraha, right? That person, right, is defined as officially a Vaishnava or formally a Vaishnava, right? So he has taken initiation. Now, that means Diksha, as defined in Hari Bhakti Vilas also. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, Diksha is defined as taking initiation into a Vishnu mantra, like that. Now, some people, especially in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they make a distinction between Harinama and Diksha. What is spoken of in Hari Bhakti Vilas is Diksha. In the second Vilas, it's talked about Vaishnava Diksha. Vaishnava Diksha talks about getting the mantra like the Gopal, 18-syllable Gopal mantra. Tum Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Or another type of Vaishnava mantra like the 10-syllable Gopal mantra, Klim Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Or other mantras like the 12-syllable mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Or the 8-syllable mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, or the 6-syllable mantra, Om Vishnave Namaha, or Om Namo Vishnave, more commonly, right? Or some other Vaishnava mantra, right? You know, Om Ramaya Namaha, or Ram Ramaya Namaha, right? That's also mentioned. All those mantras are mentioned in the second Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas, right? With a specific emphasis for Gaudiya Vaishnavas on the 18-syllable Gopal mantra, which I started with, right? So unless one has taken initiation into one of those sort of mantras, right, we do not see in Hari Bhakti Vilas, in the second Vilas, in around Vaishnava Diksha, the mention of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, or as it's given in the Kalishantora and Upanishad, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We don't see that mantra mentioned. Neither do we see some other mantras like Sri Ram Jaya Jaya Rama, Sri Rama Jaya Jaya Rama. We don't see that either. These mantras tend to be what we call Harinam. Harinam in Gaudiya Vaishnavism is something considered a little bit different from mantra diksha, from mantra. So in this sense, if we strictly go by the definitions given in Hari Bhakti Vilas, formally a Vaishnava has to take that initiation into a Vaishnava mantra and not just Harinama. Not just Harinama, like that, to be considered, according to Hari Bhakti Vilas, to be formally a Vaishnava. Now, of course, people will object and they'll say, no, if you have Harinama, then you are a Vaishnava. You're worshipping Krishna and you have a mantra. Yes, the Maha Mantra is certainly a mantra. Harinama is certainly a mantra, right? If I tell someone chant Govinda, right? That's a mantra. That is the name of the Lord. That is powerful. That is Nam Namakari Bahudab Nija Sarva Shaktis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, you have millions of names, my Lord, and in each one of those names, you've invested Sarva Shakti. All of your powers are invested in all your names, like in all of your names, right? So therefore, any one of your names is all powerful, like that. So Harinama, no doubt, is all powerful like that. But here, specifically, the traditional system is to take it for a person to be recognized as a formal Vaishnava, member of a Vaishnava Sampradaya or sect. She should have two qualifications. Here, the word Lakshana is used. Lakshana means a defining quality. How do we define a Vaishnava? If somebody says to me, that person is a Vaishnava, I'll say, okay, therefore, he must have these defining qualities. He must be worshipping Lord Vishnu or Krishna. He must be a worshipper of Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. And secondly, he must have formal initiation into a Vishnu mantra or a Krishna mantra, right? Like that, not Harinam necessarily. If we broaden it a little bit, we can say if he's taken initiation into Harinam. But Harinam doesn't really, in English we use the word initiation. The Sanskrit word diksha is a little bit different from initiation, right? So diksha was described in the second Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilas, is the process of getting those particular mantras and not necessarily the Harinam. Okay, so because for Harinam, for Ramanam, right, for Rama mantras, there's no need for initiation. There's no need for diksha. So there might be somebody who chants those mantras who doesn't actually have formal diksha, but he has Harinam. Okay, enough about that. Right, so we're splitting hairs a little bit here about the difference between Harinam and diksha, Vaishnava diksha. Formally, specifically, a person should be a worshipper of Krishna and be initiated into a Vishnu mantra. Text 339. We're going to hear some more. In the Skanda Purana, it is stated, one who does not give up observing Ekadasi even when in danger or in jubilation, who is initiated according to the rules and regulations prescribed in Shastra. Text 339 to 340. In the Skanda Purana, it's stated, one who does not give up observing Ekadasi even when in danger or in jubilation, in happiness or distress, right? Right, like they say at the weddings, right? They'll say in sickness or in health, right? Who is initiated according to the rules and regulations prescribed in Shastra. What does it say here? Again, the word diksha is used here, Vaishnavi diksha, right? Who is equal to everyone. Who is equal to everyone. This is also a lakshana, a quality of Vaishnavas. They're equal to everyone. We don't see one person above the other person like that. We're equal to everyone. Samoham sarvabhuteshu, right? Brahmani gavihastini sunicheva swapakecha pandita samadarshanaha. A Vaishnava is a pandit, is a learned person. He realizes that the dog eating the elephant, these are all spiritual. They're all the same on a spiritual level. He's equal to everybody. He feels for the compassion for all living, all sentient beings. So who does not transgress the Vaishnava principles and etiquettes. So there are Vaishnava principles, very important rules, and then there are etiquettes, which are minor rules of social convention, which he also has to follow. And whose every activity is meant for Lord Vishnu's service, right? Everything that a Vaishnava does is for the service of Lord Vishnu. In fact, the very definition of liberation or the perfection for a Vaishnava is to serve the Lord, to serve Krishna. Because the Vaishnava understands that he is Jiver Swarupoi Nitya Krishna Das. He's an eternal Nitya Krishna Das, servant of Lord Krishna. And whose every activity is meant for Lord Vishnu's service is a Vaishnava. So this is very, very, very nice verses here, these 3 verses so far, giving the symptoms of a Vaishnava. Who's a Vaishnava? Next, the defining qualities of a Vaishnava. Next, text 341. In the Padma Purana, it is stated, those who accept initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, right? So a Vaishnava accepts initiation, accepts Vaishnava Diksha from a bona fide spiritual master. Well, how is it said here in the Sanskrit? Sadiksha Vidi Sanyasam, Sayantram Dvarasaksharam, Astaksharam. Right, okay, so it says here, right, okay. So actually what it says here, those who accept initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, right? They chant the 8-syllable Narayana mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, 8 syllables, along with performing the proper nyasas and yantras. Yantra means ways of doing it, right? So there are what we call japangas or limbs of japa. Japa means to chant the mantra or to meditate on the mantra. So japa nishad papa nashana iti japaha. So that when the thing which destroys rebirth and destroys sin is called japa, right? Japa is a form of meditation which can be done mentally, upamamsu, murmuring or whispering or out loud, right? It's the repetition of the mantra along with the meditation of the meaning of the mantra, right? Or the use of the mantra in a particular ritual like a fire ceremony, or in puja, worship of the deity or the icon of the Lord, like that, or in tarpana, or in some other form, some other ritual, right? So along with the proper nyasa, what does the nyasa mean? We were taught in the previous chapters or vilasas of Hari Bhakti Vilas, back before in the 5th chapter, right, when we're starting the actual daily worship of the deity, there were many nyasas that had to be performed. Specifically, though, each mantra, when the person is initiated into the mantra, the acharya or the guru or the teacher who is teaching the mantra, giving mantra upadesham, right? The person who is teaching a mantra has to teach also not only the lineage that the mantra is coming in, the spiritual lineage or sampradaya guru parampara, but he also has to teach the nyasa. He has to teach the limbs, the japangas, all of the things that have to be done when we chant the mantra to get the best effect from the mantra. The meditation, the dhyana mantra for the mantra, the nyasa for the mantra, where we remember the rishi, the of the mantra or the seer of the mantra. We have to know the name of the rishi. We have to know the name of the specific Sanskrit meter. We have to know the name of the deity which is invoked and the form of the deity which is invoked from the mantra. And we have to know the purpose for chanting the mantra or meditating on the mantra. So these are called Rishi, Chanda, Devata, and Viniyogaha, right? The mantra nyasa. So along with that all comes at the time of mantra diksha or mantra upadesham, when the acharya is initiating a person into a particular mantra. He has to teach him not only the meaning of the mantra, he has to teach him the mantra, but he also has to teach him how to use the mantra with all these nyasas and things like that. So that person has to take initiation from a guru who can teach him all those things. And so for the 8-syllable mantra, for example, I'll give you an example. Asha Srimas Astakshara Mantrasya Bhadragasham Vasi Shriman Narayana Rishi Devi Gayatri Tanda Paramatma Shriman Narayano Devata Ambi Jamai Shakti Mam Kilakam Shrim Kavacham Rimastam Shuklavanaha Udatya Iswaraha Vaikuntam Chetam Buddhistapam Jiva Paramatmano Swaswami Babaha Sambandaha Shriman Narayana Kankarupa Jive Vidyogaha. Right? That is the nyasa for Om Namo Narayanaya. Okay? For Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, there's another one. For 18-syllable mantra, there's another one. right? Like that. That is taught at the time of initiation by the Acharya so that the person can properly use that mantra. Right, now, so it says here, along with performing the nyasa and the yantra, and or chant the 12-syllable Vasudeva Mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? Or the 18-syllable Vishnu Mantra. Now, here, I'm taking another exception with the guy's translation here. In the actual verse, it says, Dwarasaksharam, 12-syllable mantra. Astaksharam, 8-syllable mantra. Nowhere is it said in here, 18-syllable mantra. But because in the second Vilas, we understand that especially the 18-syllable Gopal mantra is emphasized for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, right? From Krishna Govindaya Gopijana Balava Swaha. That can be understood here also. So he should have put that in brackets here because it's not actually mentioned in this sloka in Padma Purana. That mantra or that number of syllables is not mentioned here, right? So basically the idea is those two are mentioned, the 8-syllable and the 12-syllable mantra, which are very important in Pancharatra, right? And which are very commonly known, right? So those are understood. Those are understood. And so what does it say? As well as those who, so let's hear the verse again. Those who accept initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, chant the 8-syllable or the 8-syllable Narayana mantra along with performing the proper nyasa and yantra, or who chant the 12-syllable Vasudeva mantra, right? With the 18-syllable Vishnu mantra, as well as those who are engaged in the worship of Lord Vishnu are called Vaishnavas. Now we notice here, very interesting. We notice here that in this 1.5 slokas here was six quarters, right? Because sorry, there's 6 quarters, right? So we have two. It's like 1.5 slokas, right? So we have a verse and a half here. Right, so Sadiksha Vidi Sanyasam Sayantram Dwarasaksharam Astaksharam Atanyam Nyamva Atanyasam maybe this is a little bit wrong. Let's see. We'll have to look it up. Ye mantram samupasate. That those mantras are like that. Ye aste Vaishnava loke Vishnu Archana Ratastata. Okay. So what's mentioned here is it's interesting, the translation, I like it, but in the Sanskrit, I don't see the name Narayana or Vasudeva here, but these mantras, the 12-syllable mantra is called the Vasudeva mantra. The 8-syllable mantra is called the Narayana mantra. And we have Vishnu down here. Now, there's another mantra, Vishnu Gayatri, right? Which includes these 3 main names of the Lord, Narayana, Vasudeva, and Vishnu, right? That is the Vishnu Gayatri. It goes like this. Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat, right? Okay, so that is a mantra which contains all these 3 names. These 3 names are very important, actually. They're called Vyapaka names. And the word Vyapaka means all-pervading. So just as we have, now we're discussing the lakshanas or the defining qualities of Vaishnava, the defining quality of God, which no one else has, is that he pervades everything. He's all-pervasive, right? So Vyapaka, these are called Vyapaka names. The word Vishnu means he pervades from inside things. So inside every atom, inside your heart, inside everything, right? He pervades everything. So Vasudeva means pervading from the outside. So we are the souls and the universe are like the body of God, right? He's pervading from the outside also, Vasudeva. And Narayana means both, pervading from the inside and the outside. So it's considered to be the topmost name because it describes both ideas of Vyapakaness, both ideas of pervasion from inside and from outside. So all these 3 names are in the Vishnu Gayatri. Vishnu Gayatri comes in Taittiriya Aranyaka, in the Krishna Yajurveda, it's commonly called the Mahanarayana Upanishad or Yajnika Upanishad, which is the 4th the fourth section of the Taittiriya Upanishad after the Shikshavali, Brahmanandavali, and Brigavali. The fourth one is called Mahanarayana Upanishad or the Yajnika Upanishad. And in there's a section with different Gayatri mantras, and the Narayana Gayatri mantra comes there. So that is actually part of the Taittiriya Aranyaka. It's the section 6 to 10 of the Taittiriya Aranyaka. Okay, so now if we go on, right? So this is interesting. So here, another definition coming from Padma Purana, which mentions the 8-syllable and 12-syllable mantras, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And by understanding, we can accept any Vishnu mantra also, like the 18-syllable mantra is also accepted. Okay, as part of that. So this is also more definition of who is a Vaishnava, right? Especially these mantras are important in scripture. So as Vaishnava mantras. Okay, so now we get back. We had that interlude there about the symptoms of a Vaishnava. Now we're going to go back. Why did we do that? Because he was mentioning who is the person who follows these rules. Who is the person who's interested in not following Ekadasi on a mixed Ekadasi, but only following a pure Ekadasi? That person is a Vaishnava. And the people who are not Vaishnavas, they might follow Ekadasi also. So Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami have written a book, Hari Bhakti Vilasa, for people who are Vaishnavas, specifically Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but all Vaishnavas in general. But they've also written it for people who are just Hindus, people who are not Vaishnavas, people who are Shaivites, people who are Advaitins, people who are Mayavadis. If those people read that, they'll see they are not Vaishnavas according to that definition, right? Those definitions, they're not Vaishnavas. For them, they might follow the mixed Ekadasi, right? Which we see that they do. They do follow the mixed Ekadasi. Whereas we consider that to be, Vaishnavas consider that to be very sinful, right? Whenever you see 2 Ekadasis on the calendar, the Smartas will follow fasting on the first one, the Vaishnavas on the second one, or on the Mahadwadasi, because we have this idea of mixed and pure Ekadasi. So that's very important. So that's why it came to the mind of the author here, Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami, to explain the symptoms of a Vaishnava. Who is a Vaishnava? Who's a person who actually follows these rules? That person is a Vaishnava. And these are some of the other defining qualities of a Vaishnava. Now we go back to the previous subject, which is the main subject of the 12th and some of the 13th Vilas, right? Of Ekadasi. So we're going back to that. So we're now going to go back to technical discussion about sunrise and all the different periods before sunrise and after sunrise. So now we have what is the lakshana, or what is the definition of Arundaya. Arundaya means sunrise. So what's the definition of sunrise? And in fact, it's interesting because the Vedic definition is different from the modern scientific definition. So here it says, ata, thus, or now, the defining definition of sunrise, the defining qualities of sunrise. In the Skanda Purana, it said, text 342, the period of sunrise, or Arundaya, refers to 4 dandas before sunrise. So Arundaya, the rising of the sun, literally it means that when the sun is rising, actually refers to all these 96 minutes before, or 4 dandas, or 4 gatikas, or 2 muhurtas, from 96 minutes to sunrise, right? It refers to all these 96 minutes. That is Arundaya. That is the definition of Arundaya, right? That time is most auspicious, and so activities such as bathing should be performed during that period, right? Which we know already, right? We should get up and we should perform those things. So all of those 4 dandas, all of those 4 gatikas, all of those 2 muhurtas, right? All those 96 minutes before sunrise, they're considered auspicious. Now, there are 2 muhurtas, Brahma Mahuta and Shiva Mahuta, out of which the Brahma Mahuta is considered better than the other one. So the 40 from 96 minutes to 48 minutes before sunrise is the best time. But still, the other 48 minutes before sunrise is also considered part of Arundaya. Okay? All of these 96 minutes are together called Arundaya, the time of the rising of the sun. Now, why should the rising of the sun be important? Why should it be spiritual? Because Surya Narayana, Narayana within the sun, is our Pratyaksha Devata. It's the God the form of God that we see every day. We are influenced so much by the sun. Without the sun, nothing goes on. He is the God in the sky. We see all over the world, people have these solar cults where they worship the sun, like that, from ancient Egypt to ancient Greece to ancient Rome, like that. They all have these solar deities that they worship, like that. Similarly, in India, we do the Sandhya Vandanam at the time of the rising of the sun, setting of the sun, and when the sun is strongest in the middle of the day. So the sun has a lot to do with the practice of Vaishnavism, or even Hinduism and Brahmanism in general, right? So that is because the sun is so important, because the sun is that aspect of Lord Narayana that we can see in our daily life and who affects us in our daily life. It's called Pratyaksha Devata, the God that you can see, right, with your eyes, like that. So sunrise is very important. When he comes up, when he's first seen, is most auspicious. When he goes away and when it's dark, that's considered the mode of darkness. That's considered the mode of ignorance, right? Tamaguna. In the morning is considered Sattvaguna. Sattvaguna is the mode of goodness. In the middle of the day or in the evening, it might be Rajaguna, like that. So in the morning, we consider the mode of goodness. So when we perform spiritual activities, we want to take advantage of the morning time, which is the mode of goodness, especially this time, 96 minutes before sunrise up until sunrise, which is all considered part of the sunrise, Arundaya. Okay, so that's the point. Because of its association with the sun, the rising of the sun, which is Surya Narayana. Okay, Deya Sarasivati Mandala Madhyavarti, Narayana Sarasijasana Vistaha, Keyuravan Makarakundalavan Kiriti, Hari, Hiramaya Vapuhu, Jitasanka Chakraha. That Lord Surya Narayana with his Shankha Chakra are sitting in the middle, Madhyavarti, Narayana, Deyasara Sabati, Savriti Mandala Madhyavarti, in the middle of the Savriti Mandala, in the middle of the sun. So, continuing on, 434. So that was a definition of that, and we keep on having this definition of Arundaya, right? Of sunrise. In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it said, and once again here it says, Chaturashro Gatika, 4 Gatikas, right? According to the scriptures, the period of 4 dandas, also known as 4 Gatikas, right? 4 times 24 minutes, 96 minutes before sunrise is known as Arundaya. This is the most suitable time for bathing and performing other duties for sannyasis. So it says here, Yati Nam, right? So not only for grihastas, now he's giving a sloka that says even for sannyasis, they should do that, right? They should get up. In fact, everybody should get up that time. Everybody should perform their spiritual activities that time. That's the best time of day, if you have a choice, right? So at that time, right, this is the most suitable time for bathing and performing other duties, morning duties for sannyasis. Now, here's an interesting place. It says here, Gangamba Sadrisha Shvitaha, right? So at that time, all water is considered to be Ganges water. That's interesting. So Ganges water is purifying, supremely purifying, but it comes from the foot of Lord Vishnu, from the spiritual world, from the Karanadak ocean or the Viraja river, the spiritual ocean or river between here and the spiritual sky Vaikuntha, right? So that is most purifying, the Ganges water. So at the time of Brahma Mahuta, or at the time of Arundaya, 96 minutes before sunrise, all water is considered to be equal to Ganges water. Very interesting. Now, text 334. So we can use that water at that time. When we get up, all the water that we use is going to be spiritual, like that. Normally, other times of the day, we have to take ordinary water and we have to chant mantras over it. We have to do specific rituals to make it supremely spiritually purifying. But at that time, the water is already considered to be like Ganges water. Right. So the first 1.5 hours, and the last 1.5 hours of the night. The first 1.5 hours of the night, right, after the sun goes down, and the first 1.5 hours of the night, the last 1.5 hours of the night before the sun actually comes up, are for performing one's evening and morning duties, right? So let's say, for example, if sunrise and sunset are at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., right? So if sunrise is at 6 a.m., right? So then an hour and a half before, actually 96 minutes, which is an hour and 36 minutes, but here it's just said an hour and a half, right? Because in the word nadi is used here, right? But nadi or nadika means something else also, but we can look that up. But 1 hour and a half, let's say an hour and a half before sunrise, basically from 4:30 in the morning till 6 a.m., right? If the sunrise is at 6, and from 6 p.m., from 4:30 in the afternoon to 6 p.m., right, when the sun goes down, right, or 1.5 hours before the sun goes down, these are the times when we should do the morning rituals, the morning Sandhyavandana and the evening Sandhyavandana. And local noon time, which is not necessarily the same as your Eastern Standard Time or Hawaii Standard Time or European Standard Time, whatever time, or Indian Standard Time, right? But local noon is the time when we should be performing the noonday Sandhyavandana, right? Now, the rest of the time is referred to as night. So after, right, of course, there's daytime, but at bookending each part of day is at the beginning of the day, there's 1.5 hours before sunrise. At the end of the day, there's 1.5 hours, right, before sunset, right? The last half, the first 1.5 hours. Okay, the first 1.5 hours of night. The first 1.5 hours of night could be from 6 p.m. to 7:30. Excuse me, from 6 p.m. to 7:30. So just when the sun goes down until the stars come out, right? Until the stars are coming out. That is considered also for evening Sandhyavandana. The rest, so the idea of 4:30 to 6 is not right. 6 till 7:30. So 4:30 a.m. to 6 a.m., right, in the morning, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in the evening. These two are the times for morning and evening Sandhyavandana. Basically, according to this, if the sun rises at 6 and sets at 6 p.m., right? The rest of the time is referred to as night. Okay, so those two aspects, although there's darkness at those times, right, or somewhat darkness, semi-darkness and darkness at that time, right, they're not considered to be part of night. They're considered to be part of the day, right? The rest of the night the rest of the time is referred to as night, right? Therefore, the duration of night is 9 hours and the duration of day is 15 hours, right? So we understand this. So normally we would say that's assuming that we're at the equinox and that we have equal day and night, days and nights. If we have equal days and nights, the sun rises at 6 and sets at 6 p.m., right? So then we have 12-hour day and 12 hours darkness, right? So if we take 1.5 hours from the morning before sunrise and 1.5 hours after sunset, right, that makes 3 hours. So if we take those 3 hours from the 12 hours of the night, then the night becomes only 9 hours long. And if we add those 3 hours to the 12 hours of the day becomes 15 hours long, right? So what here he's saying, the definition of day and night is, there's a definition of day and night, which is actually, right, that you have to add on the time of Arundaya and the time of, I think it's Pradosha, after the sunset, right? You have to add those two times together and add them to the daylight hours, and then you get the daylight hours of the day. and then subtract them from the night hours. Even though there's some darkness in those times, they are counted as the day. Okay? So now, text 345. The fault of fasting on an Ekadasi polluted by Dasami during Arundaya. We already heard so much fault and so many problems because of that, right? So, but we're going to hear again. So here we have a sage called Kutsa. Kutsa is one of the 7 sages, right? We have Atri Brigu Kutsa Vishishta Gautama Kasyapa, right? These are the Atri Brigu Kutsa Vishishta Gautama Kasyapa, 7 sages, right? Okay. So we have the great sage Kutsa has said, once a woman observing fasting on an Ekadasi that was polluted by the Dasami, the 10th day, right, during Arundaya. What is Arundaya again? It's 96 minutes before sunrise, up till sunrise. And as a result, she lost her 100 sons. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about Gandhari. Gandhari, the wife of Dhritarashtra, she lost her 100 sons, the Kauravas, in the battle of Kurukshetra. They were defeated by the Pandavas and killed. Okay? So maybe there's some other woman he's talking about, but normally we would say that this is referring to Gandhari. Right. We already heard this before, but let's hear it again. So text 346, in the conversation between the Supreme Lord and Lord Brahma, found in the Padma Purana, it says, those who, after understanding the 4 kinds of faults, such as Veda, remember what they were? They were Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga, right? These are the 4 dandas before, or 4 sections of 24 minutes from 96 minutes to sunrise, 96 minutes before sunrise to sunrise. So those who, after understanding the 4 kinds of faults, which we just understood, right, such as Veda, Ati Veda, Mahaveda, and Yoga, fast on a mixed Ekadasi. If you understand this and you still fast on a mixed Ekadasi, you will reside in hell until the time of final dissolution of the universe. Okay? Right, so very heavy here, mentioned in Padma Purana. Okay. So text 347. Because observing a polluted Ekadasi or a mixed Ekadasi, one loses his children, and for 7 lifetimes he will be born poor and impious person. So if you do this, for 7 lifetimes you'll be born poor and impious, and you'll lose all your children. Text 348 in Bhavishya Purana, it's also stated, if Dasami, or the 10th day, continues until Arundaya, and one observes, or sunrise, 96 minutes before sunrise, right? Up to sunrise, one observes such an Ekadasi, then all his advancement in religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are thwarted. So everything that you did according to the goal, towards the goals of human life, right? Religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, liberation, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? Are for nothing. They're all thwarted if you do that. If you observe that fasting on that day. One should very well, text 349, one should very well understand that an Ekadasi that is polluted by the presence of Dasami during Arundaya is the root of all sinful activities for those who observe it. Right? So all sins. Remember, we saw that in the previous lecture on this, we saw that even all the sins, every single sin that you can think of, including and up to the killing of Brahmins, right? Or we can say killing of Vaishnavas, killing of Brahmins or Vaishnavas, right? Is Brahma Hatya, is in Ekadasi, which is mixed, in this mixed Ekadasi. So now, text 350, all of the faults described previously regarding the mixed or polluted Ekadasis, right, are applicable here in connection with the fault concerning Arundaya. So just to summarize here, we understood in the very beginning of the chapter, we understood that Ekadasi was a time when we should fast. But how exactly we are to determine Ekadasi, the pure Ekadasi, right, is given to us in the second part of the 12th chapter, right? So here it's saying, they're reiterating the warnings that they've given in the beginning, right, about following this polluted or mixed Ekadasi, right? It's very important because this is one of the things, this is one of the subjects specifically told by Lord Chaitanya, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya himself told Sanatana Goswami, you must include this subject in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So he's including it very, very, in a very expanded way, in a very full way, he's explaining it. Text 351, therefore, observing a mixed Ekadasi is prohibited in all respects. Apart from such prohibition, all statements advocating a mixed vow are meant for materialistic householders. So anybody who is even considering doing a mixed Ekadasi, he's either a Mayavadi or he's just a materialistic householder, right? These statements were propagated by Shukracharya, right? Who was the guru, the acharya, or the spiritual teacher of the demons, right? Bali Maharaj, right? To bewilder the demons, right? So he has given these statements to bewilder the demons. Text 352. Similarly, if other vows involving fasting, such as involving fasting, such as Janmastami, all of the appearance days of the different incarnations and avatars of the Lord, like Janmastami, Ramnavami, Vamana Dwadasi, Vraha Dwadasi, Narsimha Chaturdasi, all these other appearance days of the Lord when we fast, right? All other vows include that involve fasting, which we're going to learn about in the 14th to the 16th chapters or Vilasas. There's going to be a list of all these different activities that we do, and that we observe throughout the year. He's saying, similarly, if other vows involve fasting, such as Janmastami, are polluted during the period of sunrise. Again, what's the period of sunrise? From 96 minutes before sunrise to the actual sunrise, or Arundaya. That's the period, right? Vaishnavas should avoid observing them. This is a recommendation of the scriptures. So not only for Ekadasi, but for any other of these vows of fasting, of different observances of fasting, we should take into consideration of that. So previously there was a statement that we only take it into consideration with Ekadasi, right? So initially we talked about judging what the lunar day is according to sunrise. Then we said that's the general rule, but the exception is Ekadasi we have to judge by 96 minutes before sunrise. Here it's saying there's another exception. The other exception is any other fasting day, we also have to treat that just like Ekadasi, and we have to judge it from Arundaya. We have to judge it from 96 minutes before sunrise. Okay. So now that's the Vaishnava way. Okay, so text 353. What is to be done if Dasami remains until midnight? What is to be done if Dasami remains until midnight? Some scholars think that if Dasami, the 10th day, remains until midnight or later, after midnight, right? Here in the first line, it says Adha Ratra. Adha Ratra means midnight. Now, exactly what is meant by Adha Ratra here, we have to talk to our Jyotisha friends who know more about this, but midnight could mean, it could mean 12 midnight. That's normally what it means for us, right? In modern time. But in the Vedic time, it would be halfway between sunset and dawn. The Vedic sunset and the Vedic dawn. Halfway in between is midnight. So that may not be 12 a.m. That may not be 12 a.m. Okay? Which is our civil midnight. So just understand, when it says in Sanskrit Adha Ratra, right? It means in the middle between sunrise, Vedic sunrise, and Vedic sunset. I'm sorry, Vedic sunset and Vedic sunrise is midnight. Noon, of course, is in between sunrise and sunset. Okay. So now some scholars think that if the 10th day, the 10th lunar day is still there at midnight, or later, the next day should be considered a mixed or polluted Ekadasi. Remember now, what did we say? Don't get confused about this, right? We said before that if Dasami continues to 96 minutes before sunrise, that makes the Ekadasi polluted or mixed, and therefore we should fast on the Dwadasi and break fast on the 13th day of Tridasi. But here, what it's saying is that there are some people who say that if it just remains till midnight, if it only remains till midnight, or sometime later, but not actually to 96 minutes before sunrise the next day, right? It is considered to be a mixed or polluted Ekadasi. Some scholars, he says. So then what does he say? Then he says 354. A similar statement is found in Kurma Purana. So in Kurma Purana, there might be something backing up what those scholars say. These are Vaishnava scholars. They have an opinion based on the scripture, right? If Dasami, the 10th night, the 10th lunar day, continues past midnight, one should not observe the vow of Ekadasi, but instead the vow of Dwadasi. Okay, so what we also had previously in the last class, we had a statement. If you have a doubt, if you have a doubt to follow that whether Ekadasi comes on that day or not, whether it's mixed or pure, if you think that it might be mixed or might be impure, then perform the fast on the Dwadasi. That's what it said. So here, a doubt creeps in if Dasami comes just past midnight. Now, of course, we have to calculate the middle of the night, not midnight, not 12 a.m., but the middle of the night, and we have to see on the calendar if Dasami even comes just past there. But if it does come past there, then somebody might think, well, look, Kurma Purana says we should do a Mahadwadasi fast. We should not do an Ekadasi fast. So on the basis of Kurma Purana, so you can see by referencing different scriptures, there can be slightly different opinions, right? So if somebody can know this is hopefully we leave all this technical stuff up to the person who is creating the calendar for us, which we follow. Normally what we do is we just follow a calendar which is calculated by a Jyotishi, by a person who's knowledgeable in all these things. But these are the actual rules that person has to take into account. So here's a rule. Here's a little exceptional rule. From Kurma Purana, it says if the Dasami goes past midnight, right, the middle of the night, not midnight, not 12 a.m., but the middle of the night, Vedic night, one should not observe the vow of Ekadasi, but observe the Dwadasi. So if in such a situation, if you find yourself in such a situation, what do? When in doubt, cut it out. When in doubt, don't follow that Ekadasi, but follow the Dwadasi instead. Fast on the Dwadasi and then break on the Triyodasi. So that's the verdict of Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So text. Now, if I'm wrong, if somebody who is an expert in Jyotish wants to say I'm wrong like that, please, you can write to me and explain to me how I'm wrong. But that is the way that we read Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So now, text 355. And there can be different opinions because remember here in Hari Bhakti Vilasa, it said some scholars say like this. Why do they say like this? Because in Kurma Purana, there's a quote that says this. So somebody who knows Sanskrit and who's also a Jyotishi, he may look at this quote from Kurma Purana and say, well, I don't believe that it actually means that. It means something slightly different. Fine. If they want to do that and they want to get in touch with me and explain it to me. But a simple reading of this verse tells me that there's a possibility of being a mixed Ekadasi in this case, where Dasami comes past the middle of the night, right? And therefore, I should not take the chance because it's so bad observing a mixed Ekadasi or a polluted Ekadasi that I should observe the Dwadasi Vratam instead of the Ekadasi Vratam. Okay? So now, text 355. Some experienced scholars consider such statements about midnight to be applicable to he says, Pakshavardini Mahadwadasi. Okay, so Pakshavardini Mahadwadasi, we have to look, maybe there's an explanation about when Pakshavardini Mahadwadasi is. I'm not sure when that is. I'm not sure about that, exactly where that is. I have to look it up. That's something I can ask about. But others, such as Srila Vyasadeva, do not approve of it. So some experienced scholars consider that such statements about midnight may be applicable to Paksha Vardini Mahadwadasi, but others such as Srila Vyasadeva, do not approve of it. Okay. Vyasadeva is a strong scholar and a strong knower. Probably we should take what Vyasadeva says as correct. So we have to find out exactly what this Paksha Vardini Mahadwarasi is. So now, text 356. This is another thing that the readers of Hari Bhakti Vilas, the Goswamis have written Hari Bhakti Vilas with a lot of terminology that would be understood by most Vaishnavas at the time, or most Brahmins, or most regular Hindus. They would understand what Pakshavardhini Mahadwarasi is, and therefore they would understand this terminology. So, but today we don't, I don't know what it is, right offhand. This is my education too. I will try to find out and present it maybe in another class. So stay tuned for that. If I don't, you can always email me and ask me if I found out the answer to that question. Text 356. Vyasadeva has stated in Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So here is a statement by Vyasadeva, right, which may counteract the statement that we just had in the Kurma Purana, which was relied upon by some Vaishnava scholars. So Vyasadeva says in Brahma Vaivarta, it is the opinion of some experienced scholars that if there is a fault of pollution caused by the presence of Dasami, the 10th lunar day, at midnight, there is no question of considering that fault during Arundaya. So text 356, Vyasadeva has stated that in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, in the opinion of some experienced scholars, Vaishnava scholars, that if there's a fault of pollution caused by the presence of Dasami, the 10th Tithi at midnight, there's no question of considering that fault during Arundaya. Text 357. Some acharyas consider the fault of pollution at midnight as Kapala Veda. But that is not approved by me, Vyasadeva, nor by those who are very dear to Lord Hari. In scriptures, this is coming from Brahma Vaivarta Purana. In the scriptures, night is referred to as Triyama. A yama is 3 hours. So Triyama means 9 hours. We just understood the definition before. So text 358 in the Padma Purana, it's also stated if Dasami extends beyond midnight, then the Ekadasi is referred to as Kalpa Vedani. In that case, one should observe the Pakshavardhini Mahadwarasi. Text 359, even if not polluted due to a mixture, if an Ekadasi overlaps the next day, Vaishnavas should not observe it, but follow the vow of Dwadasi. Okay. So now we come up to a section called Ata Shuddha Avishesha Parityaga. Even pure Ekadasis have to be rejected under certain circumstances. So we'll take that up next time. Any questions? Highly technical. Highly technical.
Yes, Swami, very technical.
Yeah. Did you follow all of that? I tried to make it as simple. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, it's just that it's just so repetitive, and it's good. It's fine.
Okay. He makes a point, then he quotes a scripture, and he might quote a few different scriptures to repeat the point, to emphasize the point, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, we understand, we've gone from this thing of understanding a pure Ekadasi and a mixed Ekadasi. And next, next thing that we have to understand is this whole idea of Paksha Parivardhini Ekadasi. What is it? Mahadwarasi. What does that mean exactly? So there's an idea about Mahadwarasis, and we should understand about it, and we should understand exactly, because in the Kurma Purana it says one thing, but Vyasadeva has a different opinion. So therefore, you might find some Vaishnavas there following one opinion of Kurma Purana. Other people might be following Vyasadeva, what he says in Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Some people might say, oh, Kurma Purana seems like an older Purana, or maybe it's a more Vaishnava Purana. Brahma Vaivarta is not exactly a Vaishnava Purana. So, like that, although it deals with some Vaishnava issues, right? So we have to look. This is why it's important to have a good idea of the different levels of scriptural pramana, which pramana is best, which is second best, which is third best, like that. Then you can judge. Well, immediately I hear this. I hear Vyasadeva says this. Okay, if Vyasadeva says this, he compiled all the Puranas. So, probably his opinion, right, is to be taken over the other opinion. But remember, Vyasadeva compiled all the Puranas. So Kurma Purana and Brahma Mahuta were both compiled by him. So if the same author can't have two different opinions, or maybe he's giving an opinion in a Tamasic Purana or a Rajasic Purana, which is different from the opinion he gives in a Sattvic Purana, right? So we have to understand that. So it's important to have a good idea of the level of pramanas, of what scriptures are more important than others, and what instructions supersede other instructions when we come up to these contradictory instructions. So hopefully that'll be explained coming up.
Om Namo Narayana.